Welcome to the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast. Real people with real challenges doing live intimacy coaching. Join me for a session already in progress.
I wouldn't say I'm completely new to being in the kink scene or being online, but I do think I am evolving in the ways that I do kink and the way I interact with others. So I'm always learning on that front. I'm learning more about myself all the time.
How much experience would you say you have? Like, when did you start sort of exploring?
I started doing research in 2015. I didn't start actually practicing until 2018.
Mm-hmm. Just in time for everything to shut down.
Yeah, pretty much. Around 2017 to 2018 was when I started.
Yeah. That's nice. A lot of people have just started exploring late 2019 and then just zero opportunities because everybody was stuck at home. Right. But it's interesting because it has sort of created this wave of people who have done way more research before getting into it. And, it's sort of yet to be seen whether that's good or bad or how it's good or bad. But I'm not sure how I would feel about a BDSM community where everybody's strict rule followers. Could be good, could be bad. I don't know. And how's your experience been?
Pre-pandemic or during?
Well, I mean, altogether, yeah. How have you found sort of participating in that BDSM community?
I think doing research is one thing and practicing it is a completely different thing because I think I had this idea in my head, especially as a femme person, that I would be a submissive. And that was just how it was. You see the popular portrayals of BDSM and shows and movies and all of these things. And it always shows, a femme presenting submissive and super masculine dominant. So that's just what we're given. And that was also how I started existing in the world of BDSM. And I think that experience was valuable because I do think it's important to have experience being a bottom or being a submissive and feeling what it's like to be in that position. But I think I also learned over time that I do have switch tendencies. I am much more of a switch than I am a submissive, and I can act on wanting to top and wanting to be a dom without having to fully commit to either being a submissive or being a dom. I don't have to have very strict labels or rules on what role I fit in. And I feel like that's still a thing, that you see a female dom and you expect her to act a certain way or dress a certain way and do all these things. And I don't see a lot of popular portrayal of switches.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. And I think that part of the problem is that switches switch. And so they're either doing subby stuff or dominant stuff. And they're not doing switchy stuff. They're just doing either in a given moment. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting that you came in submissive. And first I want to, let you know you're not alone. There's a lot of women that feel like because of gender roles, they need to be submissive. And that is bullshit, but it is a really popular misconception. In fact, there's a joke in the BDSM community where you see, a couple walk in and the guy is leading the woman by the leash on Friday. And then the next Friday, you see the same couple, but it's reversed because it only took a little bit of experience for them to realize, wait a minute, it's the other way around. Right. But it's also really interesting that, that you sort of started learning from submissive, because if we go back to BDSM community really came out of the leather community, right? Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So, back in the days of leather, you came in as a sub no matter how you felt. And so you just sort of paid your dues and learned from the bottom, and then you could work your way up. So I do think there's more opportunities for people who are willing to submit, right? There's that barrier of entry for dominance, because you need to have skills. If you don't have any skills, you don't get any play, right? So it is a resource to be a switch.
Absolutely. And I think that's true what you mentioned about when being in like a kink space, like a dungeon or a local community. The what I mentioned about the popular portrayals of BDSM, I don't see that in kink scenes. Like when I'm in actual scenes, I see all people of all different genders, orientations, shapes, sizes, in all sorts of different roles. And I do not see that same stereotype enacting itself in real life, like online, even on TikTok. If you go on TikTok or places like that, I still see, like, there's nothing wrong with being a femme submissive or being a masculine dominant, but I see a lot of that being enacted repeatedly, and that's the norm, when in real life, I don't feel like that's the norm in the scene. I see people fulfilling all kinds of roles, and I don't automatically see a femme person and think, oh, well, you're a submissive, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's absolutely helpful for people to see the scene and be a part of that.
Yeah, and especially in like a professional space, the female dominants are highly valued, and their customers are usually male submissives. It pains me to think that popular portrayal of BDSM sort of pushes this heteronormative concept, right? Where it's like it's only male-female couples. The male is the dom, the female is the sub, and there's always sex. And none of those are true, right? I think that leather started as exclusively gay spaces, and then there is this concept that like BDSM is straight leather, and that's also not true. I mean, it's a very queer inclusive space. And queer inclusive space, trans inclusive space, lots of non-binary people, lots of queer people, lots of gay people. And so I think it's a wonderful space, and I think that the assumptions about that space can actually be limiting of that, because then people don't feel like they're welcome, right? And I can't speak for every community. There's little niches all over the world that have their own local flavor. But here in Los Angeles, we're very inclusive. So,
one thing that's pretty interesting, when I first started being online on social media, I came online talking about my relationship with my dominant, who was male at the time. And when I ended up doing sex work and working in that, I have far more demand to be a dom than to be a submissive. And being in any online space, when I say I'm a switch, people no longer see me as a submissive of any kind. They see dom. They're just like, yeah, we heard you. But yeah, I definitely get, people definitely prefer me to be a dom. I think that's also been a huge push in me realizing that I'm a switch, because at first I think I was just going along with it. And then I was like, wait, I actually like doing this. This is okay. It's okay for me to do this. It's okay for me to feel dominant. It's okay for me to explore these things.
Yeah. And I think honestly that these sort of gender stereotypes push the market, because it's more accessible to find a woman that is willing to be submissive because of these gender stereotypes. And so there's a premium for women that are willing to be dominant, right?
Yeah.
Something you might also run into is people who find out that you're a switch and go, oh, you're not a real dominant. And I just want to make sure that you know that that's total bullshit, right?
Yeah, I haven't experienced that yet.
Great.
I normally get, I have to continually explain to people, I am a switch. I know that I will top you. I know that I am a dom, but I am a switch. And they're just like, well, I hear you.
Mhm.
But what I heard is that you're a dom. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I have like this, even though I'm a sub-leaning switch, my actual practice in real life, I dom far more than I am a submissive.
Sure. Yeah. So what would you say is a challenge that you're experiencing, Tay?
A challenge. I would say it's related to I think the whole time I've been involved in kink, I've sort of been evolving and learning more about myself in the process and kind of challenging my own perceptions and limitations on myself and questioning what I'm doing to conform versus what actually makes me happy. And part of that has been a lot of, how do I put it? Contemplation around like gender and sexuality and things like that. And I think I had this feeling of like this weird dysphoria for the longest, and I couldn't put my finger on like what the dysphoric feeling was operating in these spaces, and especially being surrounded by a community of people who are now queer and people who are openly gay and trans and all of these things. And it's now it kind of makes me feel more comfortable to examine myself, if that makes sense.
It does.
So I think a big part of that, I haven't said this online yet at all. So people are gonna be like, girl, what? I've identified as bisexual for a very long time, and then I came out as non-binary because I kind of identified that dysphoria as maybe I was non-binary. Then I realized it's not non-binary. I think I'm just not I think I'm just a lesbian. And that has been like super weird dealing with that. I know that doesn't seem like a huge deal in the big scheme of things because lots of people are gay, but I feel like it really is, especially when you've operated your whole life as one thing and here you are doing something else, especially working professionally as a dom for all genders. Yeah. When I'm lesbian.
Yeah. Well, it's a big deal if it's a big deal to you.
Yeah. It was a big deal to me. So in real life, I am a mom, you know, I have kids. So that's not like a secret or anything. I am a mom in real life. So also even saying that is like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? So operating from that front and being accepting of myself and understanding that I can still practice kink, I can still be a dom, I can still enjoy topping people of all genders, and it doesn't have to be sexual in the way that we're told BDSM has to be this sexual thing. It doesn't have to be any of that. Yeah. I have and I will continue to enjoy doing all the things I've been doing and still identify as lesbian and feel okay with that. And I think that might be kind of controversial.
Sure. Well, yeah. And I'm not sure you need it, but I want to make sure that you like feel like you have permission to identify however you'd like to identify, regardless of your past and regardless of what anyone else has to say, right? That's your choice, and that's your prerogative.
Hey, did you know Ezra does private sessions? I loved working with Ezra one-on-one. They made me feel validated, supported, and we had a lot of fun. Call our email today.
And I want to acknowledge the weight of this conflict between conformity and authenticity, right? That's a big one, right? And I mean, it can be easy for me to say, oh, just 100% always be authentic, right? It can be easy for me to say that, but there's a cost to that, right? Mm-hmm. There's a cost to that. You can exclude yourself from groups, right? Yes. You can exclude yourself from actual social capital. You can exclude yourself from safety, right? If I'm in, let's just say a very rural, isolated area that doesn't have internet, and I want to come out as trans, like I can know that I'm trans, but coming out as trans can be physically dangerous, yes. Right? And the same thing goes for being lesbian. There can be a lot of opportunities that just disappear because you identify openly as being a lesbian. And so it's your choice how you want to identify, and also where and when you want to identify. It may be, you may be alienating male clients, for example. And so there may be a time when having, that be an open part of your personality just doesn't make sense financially, and it doesn't make you any less of a person, right? It's about the cost of being authentic versus the cost of conforming. And I think the cost of being authentic can be like totally external, right? But the cost of being authentic can also be, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. So the cost of being authentic can be external, can like cost you money, can cost you friends, right? But the cost of conforming can be internal. And it's about, it's your choice to decide, to what degree, to what amount is that cost like manageable, right? So
for context to what you're saying, for me, I actually worked as a how do I put this in like a non-identifying way, like a high profile career in DC for like 7 years. And I was making way more money I even knew what to do with. And I quit earlier this year, simply because of the fact that I was unhappy. And it was a career field that people generally don't leave. I've never seen any of my coworkers leave. It's normally something you just do until you retire. That's the only thing I've ever known how to do. It's the only thing I have experience doing. And I quit because I'd rather pursue doing this. This is something I'm passionate about, something I love doing, and something that will ban me forever from doing that job again, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second they run another background check on me, like I had to run polygraphs to even have the job I had. And clearly now I can never have that job again, and I'm okay with that, and I accept that because I would rather be happy and I would rather be authentic to myself. And I'm willing to risk not having tons of money and not being like, super secure for forever, for now, until I kind of get established in what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So because I'm actually committed to being authentic to myself and doing what makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand very keenly as someone that has been a sex worker and at some point somebody who has like worked in strip clubs and stuff like that. I understand that there are lots of opportunities that are given to me simply because men find me attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And they give me the opportunity because they find me attractive. And that's literally how I got that opportunity. And I get that. And saying that I'm gay and insinuating that there is no happy ending at the end of this trail could definitely prevent me from having those opportunities.
Yeah, it could undermine an advantage.
Exactly. So I understand, like as an, how do I put this? I feel like being an online sex worker and being an in person sex worker are different, especially having to work as a dancer, for example, because you have to convince these people in person, you know, to be interested in you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not winning. I'm not winning you over with my personality. You're not looking at my TikTok page. You know, there's 20 other girls in this club, and why would you want to talk to me? You know, so figuring out how to navigate in those spaces has definitely taught me a lot in how to navigate in other spaces in real life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about, I don't have an issue being honest, because obviously I said it in this interview, but I don't have an issue with being honest about being gay. It's just, I do selectively understand when it would be disadvantageous to say certain things, But I definitely do think that, especially because my whole platform, I created it because I wanted to be authentic to myself and because I wanted to live a life where I am being me. I'm defeating the purpose. I'm defeating the purpose of leaving this high profile job where I'm the only Black person in the entire office. I'm the youngest person in the entire office all the time. People are constantly asking me if I'm sure about what I just said, if I'm confident, are you really smart? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I leave this super toxic environment where my intelligence is constantly being questioned, despite the fact that I am a senior in the office.
Yeah. Well,
I have over 7 years. I am a senior in this office, and you are questioning me constantly. I'm like a subject matter expert, and I'm giving briefings to senators, and you're still asking me if I'm sure. Like, yeah, I'm sure. So,
well, and that's the experience that I see, is that most people are happier when they live a more authentic life. But I also, I just want to reiterate that it's not a binary system. It's not either you're living authentic or you're conforming. It's like, when do you choose to conform and when do you choose to be authentic, and to what degree? But I've never heard like somebody in the end of their life say, I wish I had conformed more. I wish I had taken fewer risks. Nobody ever says that, right? They always say, I wish I had taken that chance. I wish I had told them how I felt. I wish I had really had the confidence to be me. And so I generally advocate for that in life, right? I advocate you're probably going to be happier if you can be closer to who you are in the way that you live in the world.
Within moderation, though, right?
Within reason.
I am still, I do go to school full time now. So I do have, like, real life stuff. Not to say that sex work isn't real life stuff.
Well, and like nothing says that when you go to the corner store, you have to be wearing your pride flags, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing says that you don't have to tell your dentist that you're gay. Like it doesn't, you're not obligated to simply announce it every single moment. It's your choice when, how you want to represent yourself and when you want to. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So has that caused any conflict in your relationships at all, or has that been a pretty smooth transition?
What is actually pretty hilarious is once I came to me coming to the realization that I am actually a lesbian was not that long ago. So when I kind of told my friends that, they Nobody was surprised. Apparently, they already knew this.
Yeah.
And I was having a full panic attack about this, and they were like, "Okay, I could have told you that." They were like, "I could have told you that. I'm happy that you've come to this realization, friend." And I'm just like,
yeah.
Thanks for the support, guys. So
they were like, about time.
Yeah, they were very much like, I told you this. I've had multiple people tell me this at various points in my life, that like something was off and they couldn't figure out what. And they were like, Are you lesbian? Are you sure you're not lesbian? I was like, no, I'm fine. I just have to think about women during sex. It's fine. And it's not fine.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. Yeah, pretty strong indicator. Have you ever heard of the Kinsey scale?
I have.
Yeah.
That's what I've always thought, that sexuality is just very fluid. And I kind of clung to the fact that because it's so fluid, like maybe I'm just mostly gay and I just occasionally like men, and I really had to like sit down and examine. And I don't know if you've ever seen, there's this pretty popular Google document called, what's this called? Compulsive heterosexuality. If you haven't read it, I mean, it's targeted to sapphic people, but I mean, I feel like it's kind of useful. But it basically talks about people who are in fact lesbians, and because of compulsive heterosexuality, have convinced themselves that they are bisexual, or have convinced themselves that they are straight. And they were pointing out things like, do you think you're asexual? Do you need to drink, or do you need to be slightly intoxicated in order to have sex with men? Are you only attracted to impossibly attractive men? Like, does it need to be, does it need to be a celebrity that you're after? Do average men just not interest you at all, and you're only interested in men that present feminine, or men that,
yeah.
And I was kind of just like, but I like checked off every box on that list, and I was like, so yeah, I after examining my behavior, it's not impossible to believe, especially because I was born in the South. My family owned a church. I literally grew up in a church. Like, I was in a church multiple times a week, like literally sleeping in the pews, because I was always in church. So my family is not at all accepting of anyone that's gay at all, like not even slightly. So I knew from a very young age that being gay is wrong. And what's really funny is I was convinced, because when I was a kid, I knew, I know you're not supposed to know you're gay until you're older, but I knew I was gay when I was a kid. Like, even before it was like a sexual urge, I just knew I was gay. And I remember thinking, like, okay, so what you're telling me is that we're all bisexual, but it's wrong to say that. So I'm supposed to like men, so I like men, but I like women too. So I'm not supposed to like the women. So you're telling me that we're all like this, but I'm just not supposed to say it. That's the problem. Cool, got it.
Yeah.
So even into high school, I was fully convinced that everyone is bisexual. And my best friend had to sit me down and explain to me that straight people exist. And I was like, you gotta be kidding. I'm not lying to you. I promise. This is so true. This is so true. She was like, I promise you, I only want penis. And I was like, so you don't find, what do you mean? Because women are so much more attractive. How could you not like women? Look at women. And she's just like, girl.
Yeah, that's some next level projection.
It truly, I was trying so hard not to be gay. I was trying.
Yeah. Well, and especially like with that upbringing, there's usually internalized homophobia.
Yeah, yeah, I internalized a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what can happen is like a degradation, right? Especially if you get this message a lot that like gay people are lesser, right? Then included in that, packet of homophobia that gets forced into the subconscious is this notion that if you are gay, you are less than, you're less valuable of a person. And that can be really scary, right? The fear of degradation is very real. And what's unfortunate is that when a lot of people have that feeling, then it can become real, right? So like, for example, if you were applying for jobs and you put in your cover letter that you're gay, that people will be evaluating you, and the people who also have that internalized, value system are going to say, oh, well, this person is less than because they are gay. And so it becomes real, and so it's scary because enough people have that impression that it can actually affect your station in life. It can be not just the feeling of degrading, but it can be actually degrading, right? If you come out as gay at work, you might have lost your job, right? So, but I think it's most valuable to make sure to like search inside yourself and make sure that like coming out as gay doesn't make you feel less, right? And that may not be an easy question to answer, right? I have a lot of like gay male clients, and that's part of the fear of coming out is like, you won't get opportunities. You won't be a good person. You won't be as valuable in society. And if you feel that, that's the quickest way of making it true. Right. And so that's like, I like to say it's like a weed in the garden, right? We got to pluck it out and throw it away so that the good parts of ourselves can grow and drink up all that water.
Ask Ezra has a Patreon. You can get a free intimacy coaching session every month when you sign up. Join now.
I think my biggest feeling, I think my biggest concern was always like, I've had this keen understanding that, and when I say this, I'm genuinely not like some weird like cocky person, because I'm not, but I have this keen understanding that when I move through the world, I am a woman and people find me attractive, and so I get treated a certain way because of that. Now, when you say something like, you can never be with me because I'm a lesbian, people treat you differently than when they feel like they could potentially have a chance with you. And I've seen men be not nice to people who are lesbians, not because they did anything to them, but just the concept of the fact that men cannot have you is an issue. Either A, they get angry at the idea that you are a lesbian, or they hypersexualize it, and now you're a fetish. Like, oh, it's so hot that you're with women. Like, are you sure? Can I watch? Are you sure? Like, you sure you just haven't met the right guy? Are you sure? So that was probably my biggest concern. But more than anything, it feels really relieving because, like I said, like having that weird feeling of like, I feel like we talk about gender dysphoria a lot, and I don't know what this is called because I've looked it up and I don't think there's not really a word for it. But I feel like we talk, maybe there is, I just haven't found it yet, to be fair. But we talk about gender dysphoria a lot, right? Where you feel like your body doesn't fit the way you feel like it should be, like the way you feel like it is on the inside. But when it comes to sexual orientation, there's also this very weird dysphoria when you don't understand, you're not acting the orientation that you are. Does that make sense? Like,
it does. It does. I don't think it counts as gay panic, but
yeah, it's like interacting with men in a way that I've been taught to interact with men by society is comfortable, but it always felt very like acting.
Sure. It's inauthentic.
Yeah, and I couldn't put my finger on why it felt like acting all the time. Like why it felt like I was putting on a role, why it felt like I was performing. And I used to complain about that all the time. I used to be married, and I would feel all the time like I was performing things all the time. I was performing sex. I was performing dating men. I was performing all these things. And I couldn't figure out why I felt that way, and why when I was with women, I didn't feel like I was performing. I didn't feel like I was putting on an act, or like I had to figure out, okay, what is this guy like? So what do I need to do? What is the, like, this is what men like, and trying to psychoanalyze men and understand why I don't really connect, or like why I don't connect with men correctly, or why I can't find the right man, or, why none of my relationships with men are successful, why I don't feel satisfied with men. I just couldn't figure it out. And like that weird little phenomenon of kind of like Twilight Zone-ish, like, like you hear the music going and you're like, oh, something, what is going on here? And then saying to myself, okay, I'm just a lesbian. And it's like, oh, like it's just finally like the gears all click. Like, wait, that's why this always felt so disconnected and like acting, because I wasn't.
Yeah, and there's maybe like some dissociation going on.
Yeah,
and there is a cost to dissociation. Right. There is like an emotional cost, an emotional toll. And you may find that you sort of like have a chance to slip into it. And it's your choice whether that emotional toll is worth it. Right. So, I mean, there would be an emotional toll if you were just acting all day, like in a film. Right. And certainly it's worth it because there's a lot of people who want to do it. But you look at like Christian Bale, who like lost 100 pounds, gained 150, lost 20, there's a physical toll, but yeah, it's really up to you whether that's valuable and to what degree is it valuable. And it sort of behooves you to be really sensitive to your body and to decide, okay, well, what's really happening when this happens, and what is the value, right?
Yep. And I for sure experienced, I was very convinced for a very long time that I was asexual, just because I needed so much time to convince myself to be attracted to men I was with. I know that sounds strange. I was convinced that I was like, I must be asexual or demisexual, because that's the only reason that I'm not attracted to you. But I know that, how do I put this? I can find people physically attractive. Like if I see a really hot male actor, I know he's attractive. I'm not like blind. He's attractive. So if I see an attractive person, I can say they are attractive, and then give myself time to convince myself to be attracted. Like,
yeah. Well, there's a difference. There's a difference between attraction and sexual attraction, right?
Yeah.
Like I can know a pair of shoes is cute and not want to fuck it.
Yes. And what I was doing was, okay, this guy's attractive. He's conventionally attractive. Hey, friends, sends photo to group chat. Is he attractive? And they're like, yeah, he's attractive. Okay, he's attractive. And then, okay, well, we're going to hang out. And then if I have a few drinks, but after 3 hours, after a couple of drinks, you look really good. Oh, it's so bad looking back. Yeah. Like, I feel like that TikTok sign where it's like, it's so bad. I want to give you a 0 out of 10, but I can't do that. I was definitely doing so many mental I was doing a lot of mental gymnastics. Like I was, honestly, the first time I even had this kind of thought was when I was married still, and I was hanging out with my friend, and this is relevant when I say it. My friend is a trans woman who is a scientist who specializes in like gender related studies and stuff like that. And she was talking to me, and we were talking about sex stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that I would not only have to imagine being with a woman, but if I did hook up with a man, the only way I could enjoy it was pretending that, like focusing on the fact that I was a woman and he was hooking up with me, and it was hot because he was hooking up with a woman, and I'm the woman, and more imagining his perspective than my perspective. And like the literal mental gymnastics involved in this sound mind-boggling.
They sound exhausting. That's what they sound.
It does. And like once I really sit, because people were like, how did you not know you were a lesbian this whole time? Like this is how, this is what my brain was doing, okay? But I didn't, because, and here's the thing, because you're in your head all day, I don't know what other people are thinking during sex. I don't know what's normal. If this is all I've thought my entire life, I think this is normal. So until I open my mouth and I say it and another person hears it and they're like, girl, what? Like, I thought that was normal. What do you mean that's not normal? And she's like, no.
Yeah.
The rest of us are not doing that, babe.
Well, and when you're in your head, you're not in your body.
You're exactly. And yeah, that was another big problem I had, dissociating during sex was a problem I often had. So.
I dissociated the dentist, like intentionally. Like, why would I want to be here while you're drilling the fuck out of my teeth? Like, I am on a beach in Bali that I've never been to getting my dick sucked.
Yeah.
My dentist was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just not here. Like, keep going. Wake me up when it's over.
I had never had a male partner notice that I was dissociated, except for one. And he was like, he straight up stopped and was like, I can't, are you, I feel like you're not like, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah. It's like, where'd you go, boo? Where'd you go just now? Right?
Where are you at? I was like, I thought I was acting just fine. What do you mean?
Come back to me, baby.
was my acting? I'm sorry, my acting's off today.
Well, and I'm not sure that this is something that you're going to experience, but there may be some like falling on old habits where like you could be, having sex with a woman and all of a sudden you find yourself performing. Right. Yeah. And ways just as like a safety net, as like a parachute for that kind of experience, ways to get back into our body. And this is like a super common challenge that people come to me with, of like, I just get in my head about sex and I want to be really good and I want it to go well, but I'm like not in my body because of it. So there's different things you can do. You can like focus on specific sensations, like in your body. You can be like, where are my feet now? What is if I was trying to reassociate, if you will, I'd be like, how does my butt feel in this chair? How does my feet feel on this carpet? What's the temperature of the air? What around me is blue? What does it smell like? Yeah. And another thing that I do, I sort of have like, we could call it educators, dissociation, right? Like, because I'm a BDSM educator, sometimes when I'm doing kinky stuff, I'm thinking about the technical and I'm lost and I'm not in my body. And one of the things that's been really awesome for me is pet role play, right? Mm-hmm. Because pets don't think. If I'm going to do like an animal role play scene, I'm not planning it out. I'm like, A through Z might happen. but I'm just going to get into it. I'm just going to go and be in my body. Right. So those are good tips. Like,
that's actually super helpful.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to use that because yeah, it's not only the like sexuality. So I've talked about this on my like personal channels like a long time ago, but I don't really talk about it that much. When I was married for, well, the entire relationship was almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like really abusive. So his response to me not wanting to have sex all the time, because I obviously didn't want to,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
was to just like make me all the time. So I like.
Was it coercion or was it like forceful?
A mixture.
Mm.
So I developed a habit of dissociating a lot. And I carried that into other relationships too. So what I normally do now, like I recently went and did a like filming collaboration thing with a good friend of mine a couple weeks ago. And I had to explain to them, both of them, well, one of them's a non-binary AFAB, and the other one's a woman. And I explained to them like, hey, look, like I wasn't in the best mental state, like the day that we did the collab, I wasn't in the best, like, I wasn't in my best mental shape, I would say.
Sure.
I wasn't in the best mood. So I explained to them, I knew that the chances of me dissociating might happen. So I was like, all right, listen, I'm not going to be able to do these things today. So I have these boundaries today. I don't always have these boundaries, but today I'm not going to be able to perform oral. I'm not going to be able to perform this. I'm not going to be able to do these things, because if I perform any of these things, I'm going to dissociate because I'm not in the mood to do them. And so if I do them, I'm going to be performing and I'm going to dissociate probably. And nobody's going to like that because I'm going to stop having fun. So definitely putting boundaries up and saying no, when learning to say no and put up boundaries, even when I'm not upset or they're not trying to do anything bad to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is super duper helpful too.
Yeah.
Just not putting myself in situations where I would dissociate, basically.
Yeah. And establishing and maintaining boundaries is also a super common challenge that people experience. Mm-hmm. And I want to give you some tools to do that like even better, right? First, I want to help frame it. And because often we get messages that holding those boundaries is like a cruelty or a disservice, right? And then we get those messages from people that are unhappy that we're holding boundaries, right? We get those messages from people who don't really care about us. They're using us or abusive or whatever, right? For the people who really care about you, holding a boundary is a gift, right? Because what you're doing is you're saying, this relationship is valuable. This relationship is really important to me. And I need to make sure that we stay within where I'm comfortable, where we stay where I can feel good about what we've done, because I want to continue to feel good about us, right? And so I want you to reframe that giving of a boundary as a kindness, right? Like, hey, if I don't give a shit about you, if I'm never going to see you again, if I'm never going to talk to you, yeah, maybe I'll let some boundaries get crossed, right? Because I'm trying to get what I need out of the situation and I just don't give a shit about you, and I can put all that negative feelings on you, right? But if I love you, if I want to be with you, if I care about spending time with you, then I'm going to give you those boundaries. I'm going to be really honest about those boundaries, right? So, think about it as a kindness. The other thing that we can do is, and it sounds like you're already pretty good at this, is just owning it, right? Because it can feel like a rejection to people, right? It can feel like, so let's use the example of that performance, the scene, the professional work where, you were expected to do oral sex, right? That person who was supposed to receive the oral sex might say, what's wrong with me? Or what did I do wrong? Right. And so by owning it, by really making it about you, then you diffuse that feeling.
Are you on the Ask Ezra newsletter list? You can get updates about live classes, events, and discounts. Sign up today.
Let's do just a little bit of role play here. I want you to proposition me. It can be whatever you want. You can say, here, try my lollipop, whatever, right? And I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say no in the kindest possible way. So whenever you're ready.
Ezra, would you like to come to the movies with me?
I really appreciate that invitation, but being that we are very far away, I just can't rationalize a plane ride to go see a movie with you. Right. Okay. So, and then I might change the subject, right? You shouldn't be your job to change the subject when you are saying no, right? But I've said, it's a kindness. You can be like, okay, and then just move on. So what movie are you thinking about watching? Maybe we can talk about it after you've seen it or something, but I'm saying, like, first off, I appreciate the invitation. And second, it isn't possible for me. It really isn't something that I can do because of my needs, right? I think there's two things that tend to happen. One is to just say no. And I want to say that you don't owe somebody an elegant rejection, right? Sure. But it is something that can be helpful, right? So we were talking about kindnesses. So if you just say no, then that person gets to just put whatever they want in the air and say, oh, maybe I should have made a different invitation. Maybe I should have invited to a specific movie. Maybe, whatever, right? I can put all this bullshit in the brain, in the air, because I don't have any information besides that it's a negative, right? So if at all possible, be no with an explanation. The other thing that people do, because people act so badly when they're being rejected, a lot of people will avoid actually saying no, right? And so I might have said maybe, or I might have said ask me tomorrow or whatever, and actually avoided the rejection, right? And that is challenging for people who are non-neurotypical, right? Because they may not actually get the message that it's a no. It can be frustrating for people who who don't get the subtlety of it. But again, you don't owe that to anybody. You can just give the no. But
no, absolutely. I totally agree. This actually happened yesterday, that one of my mutuals on TikTok inboxed me, like, wanting to, like, date me. And I had to talk to her because my age isn't on my TikTok, but I explained to her, like, you were 7 years younger than me. So I don't feel comfortable. I was like, I told her, like, I am totally fine with being your friend, and I appreciate your friendship and that you're my mutual, you're a cool person. However, I'm 7 years older than you. And just because, not to say that an age gap is wrong, but to me, when you're in, like, your early 20s, that's very different from somebody that's, like, in their 30s. So I was like, I would feel uncomfortable having any sort of romantic interaction with you, romantic or sexual interaction with you, but it's no reflection on you. You're very pretty, I would just feel uncomfortable doing that,
Yeah.
And that was it. And she respected it. And she said, thank you for, for sharing that with me. I respect it, and that was
Wonderful.
that. So, yeah, I think it's important to be able to like clearly give people a no. And I think I kind of gathered, like, especially from like doing in-person sex work and stuff like that, I've understood sometimes it's not safe to tell people no. I kind of like gauge their stability level.
Yeah.
I gauge their stability level before saying the word no, and now I'm going to say it. If I need to make an exit stage left, I might do that. But generally, people are pretty receptive to being told no, especially if they're my friends. I feel pretty okay with doing that. But yeah, it has definitely been a challenge learning to say no. And I know that sounds strange, like that's like the default, that you should be able to start with a no, but I feel like that's not how it works. As much as we talk about consent, people will generally just assume it's a yes until you are like, breaks.
Yeah.
Breaks.
Well, and I want to normalize that. It is actually really hard to say no because so many people give us this message that it isn't. Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really helpful is to set timelines, right? To set expectations. So for example, with this person on TikTok, yeah, absolutely. You need a moment?
Yeah, I need water. It's right here. Okay. I'm back. Just need my water.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay.
So another thing that can be really helpful when delivering a no is to set expectations, is to set a timeline. So to use the example of your TikTok direct message where this person was too young for you, you might have said, I appreciate the invitation. I'm not comfortable with this age gap. Let's continue to be friends. And honestly, once you're 25 or older, then, feel free to reapproach me or something like that. Right. Or, for that, porn example, you might say to that person, I'm really not open to oral sex today, but I'm open to it in the future. Right. And that can really soften the blow because it's not about them and it's not about forever. It's just about now. Right.
Yeah.
So those could be really helpful. And, you can set expectations with partners about boundary crossing, right? So there can even be things that feel like they don't need specific consent that are like really intense for you. So, for example, let's say you've got a friend who loves to just call you and tell you all the drama, right? And some days you have the energy for the drama and some days you don't, right? And if you can't establish that boundary, you pick up that phone call and you're like, ugh, it's Shannon again. And she's just going to talk my ear off about how stupid Greg is. And I'm just going to take it. Right. And that's not great for either person. Right. But what you can do is you can talk to Shannon and say, Shannon, it really is draining for me sometimes when you need to unload. And I want to be there for you when I can. But we need to have a meta conversation about whether I'm available for that. Right. So I'm going to need you to ask me for permission to offload about work stuff. And when I can do it, I'm happy to do it, but I can't promise that I can always do it. Right. And so you're having like a pre-rejection conversation almost. Right. So then they call you and they say, hey, Tay, some shit went down at work. Like, can I talk to you about it? And then they've given you that question that might not have happened before. And now you're reminded, okay, now's the time to hold the boundary and to say, I love you. I can't hear it today. If you want, you can call me tomorrow about it. right?
It's really interesting that you brought that up specifically, because I was scrolling TikTok yesterday, as I do, and somebody made a post about that, and the comment section was super interesting. The post was basically saying, when that one friend that always calls you to trauma dump, like you tell them you can't do it today, like, no, thank you. And it was a pretty straightforward post. Like, okay, you're not in the mood for it today. That's fine. The comment section was in shambles. The vast majority of the comments were very angry at the creator, like very angry.
How dare you hold a boundary? Yeah, we hear that all the time. That's why it's so hard to hold boundaries.
You are not a good friend. What kind of a friend are you that you would tell someone no like that?
One with boundaries.
If someone's in need, if someone needs you, if my friend calls me and needs me to listen to something that happened, you need to drop everything. If you're a friend, if you care about someone, you will do what they ask you. And I'm like, this is how people end up being sexually assaulted in relationships. This is how people end up in friendships with people being used for things that they don't want to be used for, because we put this weird personal rejection on being told no. Like,
we take no personally. Exactly. Is that something that you've experienced?
Oh, absolutely. Very much so.
We can role play accepting rejection. That's a fun one.
Yeah, we gotta people need to learn how to gracefully accept a no. And I've definitely I've had even like one particular situation where I was dating someone, it didn't work out, and I told him it's not working out, and he then it took 2 hours. This is when I had much poorer boundaries. It took 2 hours on the phone to break up with him. 2 hours. Not because I didn't say no, but because he heard no.
He couldn't handle it. Yeah.
I hear you, but
well, that's when you say, hey, let me call you right back.
And you just
you don't. Okay, so let's role play. Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So first I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna handle your rejection. And then you're gonna go after me. Okay. So Tay, this lollipop is amazing. Do you want to try it?
I'm sorry, no thank you. I'm not really in the mood for a lollipop right now.
Thanks for holding my boundary. Anyway, it's like raspberry with strawberry. Did you watch any good movies lately?
Yeah, I actually have watched some good movies lately. How about you?
Okay, and scene. Right. So I did a few different things, right? So I acknowledged the no, like I made sure that you know that I heard it, right? I thanked you. If you can't honestly thank somebody, don't say it. But if you can realize that holding a boundary is a kindness, then thank them for the kindness. And then I changed the subject, right? The antecedent to that is to not acknowledge the no, to like keep pushing or ask, well, why not? Or now I feel like shit, make me feel better, right? Don't do any of those things. Acknowledge the no, move on, right? Thank you. Acknowledge the no, thank you, move on. So now we're going to do it again, and I'm just going to deny whatever proposition you give me, and then you're going to do a good job of accepting the no.
I have some really delicious Fiji water. Do you want to try it?
No.
Okay, I understand. Well, do you want to maybe go hang out later this week?
Yes. and scene. Yeah, and I made it hard for you by just saying no and nothing else.
I was like, wait.
They're not all rejections are going to be elegant, right? But you can still
Right.
be graceful about accepting an inelegant rejection. Right.
Absolutely.
But you did a great job. Yeah.
That's really good. I really appreciated like having like when you practiced accepting my no earlier, that was really nice. Like having the no acknowledged and then like just moving forward without making it weird. Like
yeah. Well, and
That's
what's wonderful about that is being good at accepting and giving rejection is an essential part of dating, right?
Mhm.
And you're going to be less avoidant of making propositions when you know that if you get a no, then you can actually maybe impress them with the no of how you handle the no, right? So no is not like, I don't ever want to see you ever. Usually, sometimes it is, but usually it's, I don't want this one specific thing. And especially for men propositioning women, I think there is this message that women get that everything leading up to this has been a ploy to make this happen, right? And now the jig is up, and there goes all of the pretending. So like maybe we were cuddling and I'm like, hey, do you want to do some sex? And you're like, no, I don't really want to. And I'll be like, great, thank you. I really want to continue cuddling, right? And so another key component, especially for men accepting rejection, is to acknowledge that whatever relationship or activity was preceding the proposition is still valuable, right? And it honestly, the more you practice, the less awkward it feels. And I know that like going over the top about accepting the no can feel really awkward, but I promise that hearing it feels really good. So
Yes.
It's worth doing. Like you said, like it felt good to hear, okay, thank you for letting me know. Next topic. Right. So while we're on the topic, I have an invention. This is technically my invention. I put it in my book, Mind Fucking Mindfully, available on Amazon. I put it in my book, so it's published, it's copywritten, it's fucking mine. I call it the conditional ask with explanation. So this is for expertly propositioning people. And there's 3 parts. If X, then Y, because Z. So I might say, if you're ever in LA, I would love to have you come visit the dungeon because you seem like a wonderful person. Right? So I've given a condition, a proposition, and an explanation. And what that does is it answers the question, why do you want to do this? Right? I'm not luring you so I could chain you up in my basement. I'm not, I'm not intending to do content and haven't talked about it. I'm like, you seem like a nice person. That's why I want you there. And then there's a condition. And what's wonderful about the condition is that you can say no by telling me the condition isn't met. Right? So I say, if you're in LA, and you say, thanks for the invitation, I don't plan on ever being in LA. Right? Like that's perfectly good way to say no. I might otherwise say, if you have energy later, I'd love to play with you because, you look like a lot of fun. And then you say, I don't expect to have energy later. Right? So you have like a pre-approved way of saying no.
Right.
Yeah. And that'll get you more yeses, and it'll get you no's that don't feel like they're about you. So it'll get you making more propositions because it doesn't hurt as much.
That's actually really good. I really like the giving the conditions so that people don't have to, rack their brains or feel, like concerned trying to come up with like, how do I say no without, like, how do I say no without, them taking it as a rejection, basically. So I feel like that's in a lot of people's minds when they say no, is that because me saying no has such this weird stigma of you also rejecting that person. And it's not necessarily always that. That's very cool, having the condition added in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I suppose you could make like a preposterous condition and then you know that you're getting the yes, right? If all the planets align, would you date me? Right? Well, the planets haven't aligned yet.
We'll see when the planets align.
Let me look at my astral calendar.
Yeah, I don't
see
know
you
when
in 2040.
Something that's actually interesting was I was at a kink event and people were planning an orgy and they were all sitting down. It was like this huge group of people having a consent conversation, right? And we're gonna skip over the fact that like the whole group was told, like, this is not, I don't know if this is how you plan an orgy, you guys. I don't think it's, they were just like, we're still gonna have a consent conversation and we're gonna practice. We're gonna have a consent go around where everyone, you're going to pretend to ask each other if you would like to hook up and you're going to say no. Like, you need to say no to each other.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna practice all saying no because you don't want to be in the middle of a situation. And all of a sudden not know what you're going to say. So it was really weird at first because it was literally practicing just saying a straight out cold no, like no. And the practice was not, I felt like the practice was not so much the saying the no, it was the person being told the no with no explanation. And I think we as a society, like I said, I've gotten so used to associating no with rejection that it was a good challenge to be able to be told no and take it with no sort of emotion attached to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're allowed to have emotions. I don't think anybody should be asked to not have any emotions.
I mean, not having emotions, but not take it in a bad way.
Yeah.
That makes to understand that no is not, it doesn't mean anything because this is still your friend at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you don't, that person doesn't owe you helping you with those feelings.
Right.
Like I like to say, like if it feels tough, like go talk to a friend, go cry in a corner, go call your mom. I don't care, but don't ask the person who just told you no to make you feel better.
Yes.
Right. That's not appropriate. Yes. Mom, I got rejected again.
Not again. Oh man, not mom.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, it was a pretty interesting exercise. Practicing saying no and just being told no because during an orgy you don't want to have a whole conversation like, let me stop having sex with this other person to turn around and explain to you, like, listen, here are the reasons why I have to tell you no right now. Like, it's not practical. So that it was interesting, but it was cool. So yeah. But yeah, having a condition is that's a really good idea.
Yeah, conditional ask with explanation.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that.
Good. I hope it works out for you, Tay.